MMA Rants and Raves, UFC 124. George St-Pierre versus Josh Koscheck. So, guys, I hate to sound like a broken record, but how many times are you told, especially by many of these alleged gurus and experts, to expect to see something from two fighters? Then when you watch the fight, things happen totally different than what you were told to expect. And that's exactly what happened in this fight. Let's talk about it. First round, as expected, George St-Pierre, just seconds into the round, goes for a takedown. So fast this guy is. I mean, it's like a blink of an eye before you know it. He has his arms around the opponent's waist, trying to get control, go for a takedown. He completes the takedown, but Koscheck shortly gets up after the takedown, and which isn't very surprising. Koscheck is one of the best wrestlers in mixed martial arts today. So then it seemed like George St-Pierre was going for a strategy of stand-up, mixing in jabs and leg kicks. And then basically, there were two takedowns that were stuffed. So Koscheck's game plan was working. I mean, what he was trying to do is change what happened in the last fight. In the last fight, GSP surprisingly out-wrestled Koscheck, which is a big surprise because Koscheck, at the time, was an All-American, and GSP isn't even a wrestling pedigree. So, he out-wrestled him, and that's how he won that fight. So he was trying to keep this fight standing. Koscheck knows he has a dangerous right hand. Maybe he can get a knockout. A lot was spoken about the first Matt Serra fight. Maybe he can do something like that. He has knockout power, so the strategy was working. Keep it standing up, despite the fact that in the first round, GSP was getting the better of the stand-up. So, you could see he was trying to time that right hand, but what GSP was doing was he was trying to be very patient, trying to pick apart Koscheck, using different types of a mixed martial arts assault. And it seemed like he was using a lot of jabs and moving around very quickly, trying to frustrate Koscheck, and at the same time throw some leg kicks, mix it up really well, keep him guessing. And early in the first round, those jabs were really having an effect. Koscheck's eyes started to swell up, and it looked like it was going to be trouble. When your right eye is swelling like that, it is your blind side. You just don't see it coming. So it's really tough to protect yourself. And you have to protect the eye because the more you get hit, the worse it's going to get. And GSP, his strategy is to get an opponent where he's weakest. And not just in his fighting style. Of course, if you weaken the guy because of what you did, you keep on attacking that weakness. And he hurt his eye, so he was trying to attack that eye. You could just see it. He was being opportunistic. And that's the way he is, a really cerebral fighter. So he kept on sticking to a game plan of the jabs and, the kicks. And Koscheck saw it coming, smart fighter himself. He said, probably said to himself, I'm going to go for a takedown. I got to stop this, clinch, get something else going, maybe get this to the ground. So he worked very hard towards the end of the first round. GSP's so tough to take down. It's not just his technique. I mean, just look at the way the guy is built. He's got these little horse legs, like these He-Man figurine legs. He's like a mini Mirko Krokop in a way. I mean, he's got huge, powerful legs. And that's part of it, of course. It's his physique and his technique, of course, is a very good wrestler. But, eventually how good Koscheck is as a wrestler got him down. And, he had 19 seconds to work, unfortunately. GSP very good on his guard. Koscheck really couldn't get anything done in the first round ended. Moving on to the second round. Before such, you can see Koscheck's eyes getting even worse, and it seemed like GSP was taking advantage of it, continuing with the jabs, and making a point, when he was throwing those jabs, as he was throwing them, they were just crisp. He was coming forward with them and then moving around. His movement was so good. It seemed like he was circling around Koscheck, and Koscheck was in the center, and he was kind of, confusing him, making him guess. It also seemed that he had Koscheck beaten to the punch. And here's a point I want to make. I haven't heard it throughout the fight. GSP has a reach advantage, a significant reach advantage in this fight. 3 inches. He's also an inch taller than Koscheck. When you're throwing jabs across, you're using, kind of your height, your body, because you're coming across, you're a taller man, plus the 3 inches. So in this context of throwing jabs, you can say it's like a 4-inch reach, which is very significant, especially when you are throwing jabs as opposed to throwing an overhand right coming from the side, a straight jab with a reach is very, very complementary to its effectiveness. And that's what he was doing. He was doing it very well. And then, of course, when Koscheck was trying to block that jab or do something against that jab, then he went down and threw the leg kick. And he was trying to protect against that, then, GSP went high. And then before you know it, he's going for a takedown. So it just seemed that Koscheck was looking confused, and it kept him guessing. And when Koscheck was coming across, of course, the GSP seemed to be beating him to the punch. He was either beating him to the punch, he was blocking them very well, and he was like a Joe Montana in football, GSP. He was just reading the defense. It's like he knew what he was doing many times. He was just a step ahead of him. It was just the speed and the technique was just extraordinary. The things that he was doing as far as mixing things up very well. And the closest Koscheck got, was in the second round when he threw that uppercut, when he kind of got a hold of GSP, through a combination, but it just didn't seem to really have much of an effect. GSP just remained composed and calm and just continued with the game plan, continued to pick apart Koscheck. And, basically, third round, 156, you saw GSP doing some Greco-Roman a la Randy Couture. When he tried to get the takedown and Koscheck got up, he still continued to control him, hold him against the cage, and throw the knees, wear his opponent down, anything he can, use a barrage of mixed martial arts skills, and, just was relentless. Koscheck's eye was getting worse. And then, you move on to the fourth round, it was just much of the same. You see GSP, getting a takedown, Koscheck getting right back up, and then GSP trying to control Koscheck against the cage and do more Greco-Roman. And basically, that's how the fight ended. That's how the fight ended, and, GSP got the victory. And I want to make some points here, guys. And the point is, I was just completely blown away by GSP. I mean, absolutely blown away. I have spoken very highly about his skills before, but I never knew that he was this good of a stand-up fighter. I mean, I've never seen him fight like this. Throw so many jabs in combination with those leg kicks and the high kicks and then the Greco-Roman and the takedown attempts. He just mixed it up so well. And, who would have thought? That's what I was saying before, that this will be a stand-up war. People were expecting that it's going to be a lot more wrestling, and, you have a fight that was mostly standing up and dictator standing up. And, he was just like a cobra. It's just the way he came across with those jabs. They're so quick, and the way he snapped them back, the way he recoils them. He just was coming in and out before Koscheck can react or mount his own offense. GSP was out or countering or beating him to the next punch or just throwing those leg kicks. And what I didn't understand is, why didn't Koscheck throw more kicks? That's what I didn't understand. It seemed that GSP was throwing a lot more leg kicks. It looked like Koscheck was just continuing to wait for that opening for the right hand, and it seemed like he was more impatient, putting his eggs in one basket, when GSP was just using everything at his disposal. And he was dictating where the fight was going. I mean, it was just a brilliant, brilliant performance by GSP. I mean, it was just, they call it a clinic. This was a mixed martial arts clinic as to what GSP did. And this guy that he fought is a great fighter. I've seen Koscheck's fights, and he just, made him look on a different level. I mean, he just looked like a fighter that was on a different level. Here's a guy, he's an Olympic caliber athlete, and he transcended that into mixed martial arts. And not only that, in a 170-pound frame, he's able to be the best that he can possibly be, or anybody that I know of. Anyway, now that the fight is over with, it just makes you wonder, what's next for GSP? Now, of course, Shields gets the next shot, but I'm just trying to wonder, what can Shields do? Shields is a legend. I mean, a really good fighter, really good at wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but, I see GSP being able to implement a strategy like this, which Shields may have a lot of problems with. I mean, this guy's so quick. His jabs are so nasty and dangerous, and, I mean, in this fight, and then he's got those leg kicks. I mean, how could Shields contend with that? Can he catch GSP? GSP is so quick, especially showing that he was in this fight. And Koscheck's a really good stand-up fighter. So, it seems like he can dictate the pace of the fight where he wants it to be. So it can be difficult for any welterweight. He's just so tough at that weight class. I mean, if he's going to fight Shields, maybe they should do it at middleweight. Of course, that probably won't happen because, if he moves up another weight class, he's almost definitely going to be in a title fight. So I think that GSP should move up in weight right now. I mean, there's no reason for him to be a welterweight. Probably the Shields fight will happen. I think that's going to be a good fight too. But it's definitely time for him to move up at middleweight. There's nothing for him to prove, especially after this fight. This is just unbelievable. I mean, before this fight, how well-rounded and good he was. Now he puts on a performance like this, and we saw an aspect to his game that I never knew that he had. I mean, an incredible aspect of his game. Mixing things up like that, the combination of speed and accurate jabs, his movement, his quickness, the way he changes from one mixed martial art to another within the fight is something I can't remember ever seeing. He's an incredible fighter, this guy. I mean, he's got everything together. I mean, he's like another Albert Einstein of mixed martial arts. I mean, I guess it's him and Fedor. I mean, that's how great I think this guy is. He's got everything going for him, everything. I mean, the Olympic caliber athletic build, and he transcends that into mixed martial arts, and he's able to accomplish what he did in this fight. And, to put all these things together, I mean, I can't see a fighter being able to contend on this level of skill in the 170-pound division. Here's something else I want to say. I have a message, and the message is to you goofs out there. The ones that were saying that GSP is a lay and pray type of fighter that likes to fight safe with his wrestling. I got a message for you. And here's the message. And declaring the winner, one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, and still the undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, George